Joe Biden and Barack Obama didn't do this was because they knew what the consequences were going to be. And so has the United States already lost this war and Donald Trump just doesn't know it, or does he know it?
Yeah, so I think this war is unwinnable. And the moment that you go into Iran and start this war, the moment that Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz and commits to total war, then this war is lost. So Donald Trump is interesting because if you go back to his first term, there are clear indications that he would eventually start this war. Okay? So remember, in his first term, he was doing things that were extremely controversial, in which no American president ever did before, because they thought it would be not in the best interest of America. So things he did was he moved the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He assassinated General Qasem Soleimani, who was the Iranian Middle East envoy, and who was working actually with Americans to contain ISIS, the threat of ISIS in Iraq. And then there were the Abraham Accords, which brought together Saudi Arabia and Israel. And so he was doing all these things that, from American foreign policy perspective, was actually going to destabilize the Middle East in the long term, because it would bring the conflict, Israel and Iran. Jared Kushner was basically Trump's de facto Middle East envoy. He was flying around the region and having private negotiations with the Saudis, with basically everyone. So there was a real danger that, given Trump's actions in the first term, he would eventually launch a war against Iran. The Israelis in the first term really thought that Trump was Cyrus the Great, which is the Messiah, right? The Persian Messiah that is celebrated in the Bible. And that might have gone into Trump's head, because if you go to Mar-a-Lago, there's actually a replica of the Ark of the Covenant in Mar-a-Lago. If you look at 2024, his biggest supporters were actually pro-Israel people. So the most famous, of course, is Miriam Adelson, who gave him $100 million. A few months ago, they had dinner at the White House, and Miriam Adelson said that she hopes that he runs for a third term, and if he does run for a third term, then she will commit $250 million to ensure his reelection. So it seemed as though, from the very beginning, because Jared Kushner, who was very close again with Chabad Lubavitch, and with Netanyahu, in fact, Netanyahu stayed at Jared Kushner's child bedroom when he visited New Jersey. There's just clear signs that Israel has control over Trump, and Trump himself doesn't really think that long term. So it seems as though Trump is being manipulated into the situation, and he doesn't really appreciate the consequences, because he doesn't think, ahead.